Hello and welcome to the Bend Like Bamboo Resilience Show. To bend like bamboo is to master change with flexibility. And on the show, I'm interviewing special guests to talk about their journey, how they build resilience and how they master change in their lives. So get inspired. I'm so excited to introduce to you a very dear friend, Kate Save.
Thanks for having me, Amanda, and I'm very excited to be on your podcast.
Thank you. I know you're very busy, so I feel very honoured to have this time with you. So thank you for coming on. Now, let me do a proper intro because just to honour all the amazing stuff you've done, I just want everyone to know who you are. And I know that many people will know who you are, but for those that don't, Kate is the CEO of BeFit Food, the winner of the 2018 Telstra Victorian Business Awards, Australian Financial Review Fast Started ranked 29, accredited dietitian, exercise physiologist, and diabetes educator. So Kate has completed a double degree in nutrition and dietetics and exercise science and completed her master's in clinical exercise physiology and an advanced diploma in diabetes education. You've studied so much, Kate. I love this. This is so cool. You've got over 16 years of experience in the health and fitness industry, which is what I love about you. You really walk your talk, you know, you're on your path. You really do know what you're talking about. So I can't wait for today's conversation. Kate is the director of Peninsula Physical Health and Nutrition, which has 10 locations across the Mornington Peninsula, as well as managing dietitian and exercise physiology services for 2 private hospitals. Kate also lectures in the fields of nutrition and exercise science for various educational institutions, and her key areas of focus are weight loss, diabetes, heart disease, bariatric surgery, nutrition, celiac disease, eating disorders, food intolerances, and irritable bowel conditions. Kate's main objective is to assist individuals to achieve optimal health and well-being through balanced nutrition and appropriate exercise prescription. So all-rounder, you really are, like, you focus on nutrition a lot, don't you?
Yeah. So that's my passion area. And I guess all the other things I think were areas I wanted to learn more about to be able to give the right nutrition advice. And I think the more you know, the more you realize you don't know much at all. So the more you learn.
I love that you said that, and that's so true, because the fact that you can even admit that you know, the more that we learn, the more we realize we don't know, just shows you are hungry for education and for learning, and that's why you're doing such incredible things in the world. So tell me, way back, like, when was the first moment you became obsessed with nutrition?
When I was younger, much younger, I used to get these horrible tummy pains all the time and no one knew what it was. And from the age of 2 till about 8, I was being hospitalized a lot and going for lots of tests and scans. And in the end, they couldn't diagnose me, and they basically just said it was abdominal migraine growing syndrome, which meant a tummy ache that I would one day grow out of, and they didn't know when. My grandfather used to take me to all those appointments, and when he died, kind of mum and dad were like, well, he did everything and, you know, no answers came, so maybe she'll grow out of it. And I kept getting sicker and sicker. And once I got to the age of about 19, I think it was, and, you know, I had a car, was going to uni and traveling on the Monash and all those scary things. When I would get sick and get an attack, it's so severe that, you know, I'd be pulled over on the side of the freeway, just crippled on in pain, have to call an ambulance. And
Wow.
yeah, it was horrible. And I think that journey for me, being triggered these tummy aches, and the doctors would always go, oh, what has she eaten? It must be something she's eaten. And so it made me aware of what I was eating, not good or bad, just what could it be that's upsetting me so bad? And, you know, that when I was younger, they thought, oh, it was lactose intolerant. So I quickly learned what that meant and what foods lactose was in, and took that out of my diet.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I kept getting sick, and it had nothing to do with lactose whatsoever. But the doctors would use that as their go-to because they didn't know what else it could be.
Yeah.
And I think that really inspired me to learn more about food, because I didn't think that food could be that harmful in a particular painful way, you know, physiologically. I was like, I feel like it's not the food. I feel like the food helps me to feel good.
Yeah.
It's not what's making me feel sick. And really, that's where my interest came from. And as you know, I was applying for university applications, it was really my best friends at school. I said, I don't know what I want to do. I think I want to be a microbiologist or a this and that. And they're like, you're kidding me. You're not doing something with food. And I was like, I'm not a very good cook. And they're like, no, what about nutrition? And I was like, I would like to do that. And
yes,
that was it. That's how I chose to go down.
And
that
you
path.
got to the bottom of your stomach issues in the end?
Well, yeah, it turned out to be a choledochal cyst, which they initially thought was a tumour. They wanted to put me in for emergency surgery. And
wow.
Funnily enough, they were the years that we all used to hang out. And I had my birthday party, my 20th birthday party coming up the following week. And I said, oh no, I've had this thing for 18 years. I'm not going in for surgery. I've got a party to go to. So I surgery. Put it off for 2 weeks, and I thought, I've lived this long with it. Kind of stupid thing to do, but hey, I survived. So that's what 19-year-olds do.
And then you removed the cyst and your symptoms improved?
Yeah, it ended up being a lot more complicated. They did Roux-en-Y surgery. They replumbed me. So it wasn't until when I've had other complications with what they did, because I didn't realize how massive the surgery was back then. And one of my best friends is the head of intensive care at a particular private hospital. And she got a hold of all my scans one day when I was hospitalised after being on health retreat, eating too much healthy food, and they couldn't explain what it was. She's like, oh, nobody told me that you'd had Roux-en-Y surgery. And I was like, I didn't know I had that. So basically everything's been moved around. So my body doesn't work the way a normal digestive system does anymore. And I think that's even more intriguing, because I'm like, well, every individual needs different amounts of nutrients. They absorb things differently, and the body does adapt. The things have got better over time. And that's what I see in my clinical practice too, is that and I know I'm talking to the converted with your health changes as well, that the minute that you take control of it and you can modify things, and you know that you're an individual that requires something different to someone else, and you can get that support on your journey, then you can change your health. But you need to be open to change and taking control of it, and not letting everyone else control it.
Yeah, I think it's so cool that led to opening BeFit Food, a ready-made meal business. And for very similar reasons, I said the same thing. I'm like, I can't cook very well. So maybe I'll just start a ready-made meal business, which was my line of thinking for Nourish. But at the same time, like, as you know, all the hard work it takes to build a startup like that in hospitality and food, thank God you've got all your meals sorted, because even very, very like what we're all going through now, a very long-term, sort of more traumatic time, but still very consuming with energy levels and stress levels. I don't know what I would do without your meals. Like, I say this all the time, to just know that my nutrition, and I've got really balanced, good ingredients and meals taken care of for me. I love cooking, and I've gotten better as I get older, and I mix it up. But like, you know, for the last couple of months, I've just been head down, bum up with digitalizing everything. And I don't know what I would do if I couldn't just go and get my meals sorted and just eat it and then get back to work. So
it is so true. And like, for me, and having a family with 2 young kids as well, like, kids are fussy eaters. And, you know, up until the age of 2, both my kids ate anything I put on a spoon. Like, didn't matter what it was. And I would give them the weirdest, healthiest, yucky stuff, but they still ate it. And all of a sudden, they changed their mind about everything. So, you know, cooking at home is a real pain if I have to think about cooking for husband and the 2 kids. And ideally we would all eat the same thing, but I know how that ends. Nobody eats anything. So it's nice to know that, you know, we can use the meals when we're doing something different for the kids, or the kids actually eat the meals some of the time as well. They like the lasagna, they like a lot of the soups, they like the meatballs and things like that too. So, you know, if we want a takeaway night, we actually don't have to order takeaway. We can just eat the meal. So it's, you know, just being busy and not having to worry about it.
Love it. So tell me, what does resilience mean to you?
Resilience for me is being able to get back up again and get up quickly, I guess. So I mean, I would get knocked down most days, I think, but you've got to find a way to get back up, and you just have to keep getting back up. And you mentioned even earlier today that resilience is a muscle. The more you use it, the quicker or the better your reaction to it. And I see it that way too, that you know, every time I get knocked down, I don't even need to think about getting back up. I'm back up before I've realized I've been knocked down, because you have to.
You learn. Yeah. So, but for people that are finding that difficult at the moment, is there any sort of, are there days where sometimes it is hard to get up, and what do you do then?
Well, one of my newest things, because I've listened to the Mel Robbins book, the 5-second rule. I think that's what the book's actually called too.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, lay in bed. And I did this morning. I'm like, it's 5:40 and I really need to go for a run, but I need to be at work before 8. How do I fit this in?
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, roll out of bed. And then it's done.
It works, doesn't it?
It works.
Counting backwards is her thing, isn't it?
Yes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Go and get up.
Yep. And that's it. So I use that all the time. And I think even before I kind of learnt about her philosophy with things, I just know that if I shut off that alarm, I haven't decided to sleep in. I've decided not to.
Yeah.
So
everything's on silent. I'll edit this bit out. Sorry, darling.
Oh, good.
All right, let's go back to it. Sorry.
Yeah. So I know that if I put snooze on the alarm, more often than not, I've actually decided not to go. So I need to know in my mind if I'm going to go or not going to go. So if I'm not going to go, I just don't set an alarm. And at night, if I set an alarm, that means I'm going. I made that decision.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, awesome. That's really great advice. That's really great advice. And do you think as you're getting older and as you're, you know, evolving with all the things you have to do with business and then now having a family, do you think the resilience gets easier with experience because, you know, you've sort of learned more and more as you get older?
Yeah. And look, I think you get a thicker skin. So first starting out with BeFit Food and particularly any of the media stuff I had to do at the start, you know, no one's Sorry,
it's all happening. We're just going to laugh about it.
Oh dear.
No, it's real life. It doesn't even matter. I mean, I've got everything on silent and I don't know how even my thing rang.
I only have my things on silent. So the fact that has volume on means that the kids have done it this morning or something. So
yeah, no, all good.
Anyway.
You were saying.
So I was saying, let's go back. What was
so learning, does resilience get easier as you get older because all the things you have to do in your business every day and just new skill sets that are required as you get good at it?
Yes. So I think in the early days when I started BeFit Food, you know, you're always scared about making mistakes and being judged. And as the business grew really quickly too, the expectation was that you grew with that. And all of a sudden you must know everything there is to know about this. And you obviously, you learn quickly, but you also learn what you don't know even quicker. And I think being able to just admit what you don't know is probably the best thing you can do, because then you're open to learning, you're open to taking advice and asking for help
That's true.
And I think nothing I do these days, much to the disgust of certain people in my life, is done perfectly. And that's because I don't believe in perfect anymore. I thought things had to be done perfectly. Yeah. And then I realized if you work on perfect, then you're just never going to get there. You're never going to deliver.
Well, it's very rigid, isn't it? Perfection feels very rigid, which is the opposite to what I think resilience means. You know, I really believe that flexibility builds resilience. And then when we're more flexible, we bring in that support and love and self-care and all the things that help you become more abundant and successful.
Absolutely. I think that word sums it up for me. It's the flexibility, and that's what's allowed my resilience to build, is that not everything has to be perfect. It's okay to not know, to make mistakes, and it's okay to ask for help. And that's probably really what resilience is for me, is asking for help.
Love it. So can you share something in your life that you've been through, anything at all, that you've had to overcome, so we can walk through an example of how Kate deals with resilience?
Oh, okay. So going back to when I did find out that I had this potential tumor in my gut and I had to go in for surgery, I think what I learnt during that process was, firstly, to trust your own intuition. If there's something wrong with your body, you know it. Whether anyone else believes you or hears it or the tests say so.
You know it.
You know it. And I knew it and you knew it as well. When there's something wrong, you know it's wrong. So never stop looking for answers. And going through that surgery, and it turned out obviously to be a lot more complicated than they initially thought. I woke up in hospital a couple of days later because I was pretty drugged out. I think the first few days, I hardly remember them. And my actual 20th birthday, I was in hospital. So I'd had my party the week before. And I remember waking up, and I'd obviously had visitors during the day and everything. And it got to 8 o'clock at night, and I'm sitting in bed, and I've got an electric bed to sit me up and down because they've cut me from side to side, and I can't do anything on my own. I've got 100 tubes and bits and pieces up to me. And
I didn't even know you went through that back then, because we met through a friend of a friend. Yeah. And then was that the party when we were outside at that pool with we're out, or was that a different party when we're outside on a pool?
Party,
okay.
I do remember that one.
That was a good party.
It was, yeah.
Okay, so no, this is after your birthday party, and then you've been cut side to side and you're in hospital.
And so I've woken up and I'm like, okay, I need to distract myself from what's going on here, not think about the pain, trying to find this TV remote thing. And anyway, so I get the TV on and I start watching the news, and the Bali bombings happened. And the news was all about the panic that it's going to happen all across the world. They're coming for Australia. And I remember being in this hospital bed going, I can't even walk. I can't even sit up by myself in a bed. There's no windows in this hospital. It's all stairs. How do I escape? I'm going to be crushed. What's going to happen?
Oh, that would have been a horrific feeling. Yeah.
And it was my 20th birthday. I was like, I'm all by myself. Nobody in the world knows what I'm going through right now. And, you know, it was that the weakest, most vulnerable moment in my whole life, I can imagine. And I just think, and on top of all that, what had happened that day is apparently in the public health system that I was in at the time, people get forgotten about. So a nurse who was actually a parent of one of the kids at my school at the time had checked on me the first couple of days. She'd gone away for a couple of days, had a couple of days off work, come back, and she's like, oh, when she's looked at my stomach, and I said, what's wrong? And she said, oh, they've forgotten to take out your drainage tube. And I was like, what does that mean? She's like, I'm really sorry, but your skin has grown into it all and we just have to get it out. And I was like, oh, how do you get it out? And she's like, you're going to have to bite onto this and hold my arm. And she just wrenched it out. And it was horrendous. And I remember just for the rest of the day being in shock. And she was upset. She was crying because she knew she had to do it.
Oh my!
Get infected and whatever else. And just that real vulnerability and that hopelessness. And I made up my mind when I got out of that hospital, even before I got out of the hospital. I actually lied to get out of hospital because apparently to get out you had to open your bowels and pass all these tests. So I lied because I was like, I'm
out of here.
Being in here. People forget about me. You know what? I'm going to be better off home. So 8 days later I go home, and I made up my mind that I could do it on my own and I could get past this and I'd be stronger. And that, I think that was the turning point. And that's that's a moment that I can't forget. It's, you know, it almost, when I think about it, it nearly breaks me to tears because it's just a horrible, horrible thing that I wouldn't have wished on my worst enemy.
And before you felt positive about it, like let's stay in the difficulty of it for a second. Like in those moments, like what did you start to believe about yourself, other people, circumstances before you would transform this? Like the lack of trust would have been huge.
Mortality. I remember thinking as a child, my whole life, my parents were so supportive, and they were the sort of parents that didn't push me and my sister to do anything. They just supported us in anything we wanted to do. And by support, I just mean love, trust, encouragement, pat on the back, good job type stuff. So my sister and I were brought up to think that we could do anything we wanted to do in the world. And that wasn't because of money or anything like that, because my parents had no money, but somehow they managed to build this confidence in us that we could do whatever we wanted to do. And I think getting to that low moment, but knowing that I was brought up not to think that way, it was that cliche where I had to challenge my own helpless thoughts and mortality thoughts, to go, no, I can do anything. And it's all up here. And, I let myself think about the negative and I became negative. But then, going back and thinking about those positive moments and my upbringing, my family, my supports, my friendship
and that was your
well.
foundation and your structure. So thank God that was there as your default to fall back on when you fell in this time of like the deep despair. Do you think that when you came out and you made that decision to just get out anyway, that was the first time you learned how to make your own decision according to your gut?
Yes, absolutely. And I think too, like I dropped off the people in my life that weren't aligned with my values too. So if they didn't support me or didn't have that same positivity, that same positive outlook with things, I know it's very easy to slip into that negativity and
staying in it.
Yeah. And so I changed my outlook on things and a boyfriend at the time really to be more positive. I needed to be surrounded by like-minded people to be able to keep growing as a person.
And so maybe, you wouldn't wish that, ripping Skinner off a tube for anyone, but maybe that was your experience that sort of led you to discovering who you really were and what you're made of. And that's what I really believe resilience is all about, is being thrown in the deep end, hitting rock bottom somehow, because that moment of hopelessness forces you to go within and stop seeking externally. And that's when we discover how powerful we are.
Absolutely. And thinking about that now, I remember getting my first job out of uni, almost a year later. And I took a job well above my experience and my pay grade, but, I did it. I leaped and just hoped that I landed, and I did. And then beyond that, I thought, I want to start my own business. And I remember my dad saying, Kate, you've got a very good job. You've worked so hard at uni to get this job. And I was like, hang on, Dad, you support me in anything I just do. And I've decided I'm quitting my job and I'm going to try something on my own. Yeah. And he's like, but how do you know it'll work? And my dad actually had lost his job probably 10 years prior. And he tried to start his own business. He gave himself a window of 3 years. We lost everything. We lost, the second car, all the extras. We nearly lost our house, and he gave up then. And I actually think that it was his own reflection of, oh, it's too risky, don't do it. And he was worried about me. And I just went, no, because I saw that he gave up, but he gave up because he knew he needed to pay the school bills for me and my sister. And he opened the newspaper, and the first ad he saw was for a mobile knife sharpening business. And he bought that for a couple of $1,000s, whatever it was back then. And that became his new career. Never sharpened a knife in his life, but he just knew he needed to pay the bills because his business idea didn't work. And so that was kind of that next, believe in yourself and it all.
Yeah. And even watching what your dad went through, you had by then, and maybe that experience gave you that gift of tapping into your intuition and knowing what's right for you, despite what doctors or nurses or the hospitals were, saying maybe you should stay, a bit longer. And you were absolutely fine. And this sounds like it translated across into your life professionally as well, which I bet you feel like has served you well now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gave me a reason to, listen a lot more closely to other people's stories and journeys too, because I know that if someone doesn't think something's right, then it's probably not right. And regardless of what the tests show, just keep looking. They look with me for the first sort of 6 years of my life. They stopped looking, they started looking again for a couple of years, and it was a long time later that they actually found there was something there. So
yeah.
I actually watched a girlfriend about 6 months later go through a similar journey, except hers was much more horrible. She started to get all this itching on her skin. I was like, no, that happened to me. When your bilirubin or your dead red blood cells build up in your system, they come to the surface and they make you itchy. And I'm like, you've got something similar to what I have. And, you know, your liver's not working, this, that, and the other. And they did all these tests on her and they couldn't find anything. In the end, they admitted her to a psych ward and told her that she had psychological problems, and that's why she was scratching off all her skin. And a couple of weeks later, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Oh, wow. So there was something very wrong and she knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And it meant,
no one believed her. Yeah, even, you know, her close friends, family just thought maybe she's lost the plot. Maybe something's happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't that at all. And, you know, the medical community, they don't,
I know that
they don't find it all.
Do you think that there definitely are emotional components to, you know, biological stress that happens in the body that food can repair? But, you know, is it worth addressing emotions with stress, in your opinion?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I do think our mind controls our body, because I know for me personally, the second I let the negative in, my life spirals down. And if I can take myself out of that or not let it in, then everything changes. And I completely know when I'm in control of things, and I know what takes me out of control.
What takes you out?
Not looking after myself. So not doing the key things, even the bare minimum. So for me, I need the time every morning to get out of the house and exercise, even if it's 8 minutes. So 8 minutes is my minimum that I do every day. Sometimes I'll do an hour, but I'll do 8 minutes at least every day. And that's just, I need that. And people are like, what's the point? And I'm like, trust me, it changes my mindset for the day, and I absolutely need it. So that's my non-negotiable. Right. And having the food that I want to eat during the day. For me, I guess I really value the evening meal. So I'm not as fussed during the day. I'm happy to, you know, have whatever healthy bits and pieces are around, but I'm not as fussy, but I always have to have a healthy evening meal. And I think that's because that's how I was brought up. My dad was actually a very, very good cook. He still is. Yeah. And that evening meal, the emphasis on that meal was so grand that's, you know, in my mindset. I know I'm one of those painful people, and particularly as a kid, when everyone else was having pizza for dinner, I was like, oh, can we order a salad box for me to go with the pizza? Like, I'm more than happy to eat the pizza, but that's not dinner for me. That's a piece of bread with some cheese on it. I need dinner. So I need veggies or salad or something. Yeah. But that's how my mind works. So dinner for me has to have all the greens, all the things that make me feel
all the nutrient
like I'm looking after myself.
And pieces, because you know, because you've studied it, you understand that what green leafy vegetables, deeply coloured fruits and vegetables, sulfur-rich foods, like, you know what's in them and what they do to you. You know, biochemically, and then that's connected to that. So when you have that knowledge, and I notice that with brain scientists and people that have studied physiology, and, you know, various different teachers that I've had in my life, when they understand all those processes and connections, and now that I do as well, I just can't help but not add those extra greens
to my meal. Have to do it. It's just, even snack foods for me, I really can't be bothered with non-nutritional foods. And it's not about weight, it's not about calories, it's not about anything like that. It's just, if I'm going to have salty snack food at a party type thing, I would rather be eating wasabi peas or you know, dips and whole grain crackers or whatever it is, because I prefer it. I feel better for it. I enjoy it and I prefer it. I could not be bothered with plain potato chips. I don't see the point.
And you don't feel good after you eat it. And when you eat better, you feel better. I know you specialize in weight loss. Like, we won't dive into that too much, but like, just 1 or 2 tips, like, what's the secret of losing weight? If you just had 1 or 2 things to say, is it like interval timing or?
Oh, okay. So I've got two probably big philosophies on this. One is carb to protein ratio. So I actually trademarked this before BeFit Food. So to me, carb to protein ratio is kind of the secret to controlling your appetite, nourishing your body, and maintaining a healthy weight. And by that, I mean that with every meal that you should have either a 1-to-1 ratio of carbs to protein or slightly higher protein compared to carb.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. So if you had, let's pick pasta bolognese, right? I would cook the bolognese with all the extra veggies in it, and you might throw a tin of lentils in there, and you've got your mincemeat and whatever else. And then with the pasta component, I would probably put in, half a cup of pasta so that I get my 20 grams or 10 to 20 grams of carbs and at least 20 grams of protein. And that would give me my 1-to-1 ratio of protein to carbs. And then I have a big green salad or something with it on the side.
Yeah.
Or if we're talking about an individual packaged unit, like a yogurt, for example.
Yeah.
If you read the packet of a yogurt, the carbohydrates on a good yogurt might sit, I don't know, somewhere around 7, 8, and the protein might sit around 10. If you got a rubbishy yogurt, then the carbohydrates will sit at about 20 and the protein will sit at about 4 or 5. And that's a 4-to-1 ratio. And everything you eat should be 1-to-1 or less.
Yes.
And we're acknowledging it as a vegetarian food. Sometimes that carb to protein ratio is thrown off a lot, but that's because you've got a lot more fiber in the meal. So I would just consider that extra carbohydrate in the vegetarian meals.
Yeah, because you have to.
Because a lot of that extra carbohydrate is actually fiber. So maybe a 2-to-1 in some of those meals is okay.
Great advice.
But that's what I really stick to. And I use that on anything. Like I'm just looking around all the snacks even sitting in my office. Like I've got a little proteiny drink thing here. And even here without looking, what have we got? Protein 12.12, carbs 2.3. There you go. And that's, didn't even look, wouldn't have checked, but it's an all natural almond milky thing with a natural chocolate flavor, no added sugar, but it's just high protein.
And is that because you're more inclined to burn fat for fuel rather than glucose for fuel on that ratio? Is that the bottom line?
Yes. Yeah. And my body feels better for it. When I'm burning fat, I don't run out of energy.
That's right.
If I start my day with a carbohydrate food, say for example, we're on holidays, or I don't know, I bought the kids raisin toast or something that like it's
very bready and all carb and
all carb. And if I ate that, I can guarantee my whole day is a write-off. I'm hungry every 2 hours. Yeah. I'm getting tired. I'm crashing. Yeah. I can't be bothered exercising.
And it's inflammatory as well.
Erratic eating.
Yeah. Oh, well, I love that tip, and that makes sense. It's actually, I didn't understand that ratio actually, so thank you for that. I don't have to worry about it because I've got your meals.
Yeah.
But when I cook.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
And look, my other one is really just compensation theory, that I will eat whatever I want to eat. And who knows, like it could be one day a cheesecake and I'm not going to feel guilty about it, but the next day naturally my body compensates in a sense that maybe I don't eat as early during the day and I naturally fast.
Yeah, you kind of balance it out somehow.
Yeah, and that's compensation theory for me is, if you're, I don't know, even if you're going to go out or something like that, like have a smaller lunch, because you know that when you go out that night you might be drinking and eating and maybe you're having less healthy foods, but then I don't care, I don't worry about it, I don't think about it, because I'm there to have a good time and I've already compensated that day, or the next day you fast until
you just do the best you can, and on most days just stick to those principles. And is it important to separate at least 6 hours between breakfast and lunch, and sometimes to fast as long as possible between dinner and your breakfast the next day?
Look, I often think that fasting works well for me, but it's an individual thing. I have seen a lot of clients that need to eat more often, and that's fine, because if they don't eat often enough, what I find is they binge and gorge later on, or they've got no energy and they don't exercise. So I think it's really individual, and I'd like to think that would work for everyone because it works for me. But when I have seen other case studies of my own patients, I've seen them be successful lots of different ways. And you know, it is up to the individual, I think.
Yeah. No, great advice. So, oh gosh, I think we've covered so much of what I wanted to ask you, but I actually also want to ask you, I know we talked about how, you know, your rock bottom moment turned into something that happened for you rather than to you. But how is your life better now having gone through that?
Oh, I just have I guess a different view on things, that I am mortal, I'm not here forever, and at any point in time, everything can change. So just make the most of every moment, every day, and be grateful for what you have.
We can get so serious about life, don't we? And we forget to just go with the flow, not take it so seriously, and just not worry about so much stuff that gets us in our head. And, you know, and then when we can drop out of our heads into the heart, and you feel that heart opening, it just feels more flowy. You feel more joy. We get brain integration back then.
Yes.
You know, we can problem
Don't sweat
solve.
the small stuff. That's
exactly.
I really can't be bothered with the little things, and I just let those things go. You know, it could be a text message that's unpleasant, an email that's unpleasant, this or that. I'm like, I'm not even going to entertain that thought. I will just.
It is a choice, isn't it?
Yeah. Not
and I find the calmer I am during the day from my morning and evening rituals, and some that I do across the day, the more inclined I'm able to do that. Whereas if I'm stressed and rigid, I react more. Whereas when I'm more calm, I'm more elevated, and I can see things from that higher perspective, and I'm able to not sweat the small stuff. But it's really impossible to do when we're stressed. So
yes.
But it's our responsibility, isn't it, to give our mind and body the best environment to be as calm, as present as possible, and the rest kind of just flows from there. So what's the biggest thing you learned through that?
Oh, you can only control your response or your reaction to things that happen.
Yeah.
So I think everything is a learning, and everything happens for a reason, good or bad, and you have to grow from it. So you've got to learn something, no matter how negative the experience is, and grow from it, and control your reaction to it. So you have a choice. You can be poor me and live in that, you know, miserable kind of low moment, or you can go, wow, that was horrible. I never want to be in that position again. But if it did happen to me again, or someone I know, I'd know how to better support them, because I've been through it now and I've learned what works.
Compassion, exactly. And we know what it feels like when we've really let go of like worrying about the small stuff, and we're more relaxed. And that's why I really believe journaling and meditation is so critical, because it helps you to capture that mindset from the start of the day, as you would exercise immediately, to capture your state that you want to start your day with. And then that translates to all our decisions for the rest of the day.
Absolutely. Yes. Set your day up well, and then the rest takes care of itself.
Totally. So do you have 3 tips for everyone today on how to be more resilient?
Yes. So the first one is just remember, you can't control your environment, but you can control your reactions. So choose to find the positive in everything, whether that positive is just a learning, that's all.
Yeah.
The second one would be in that perfectionism. So don't seek perfectionism. Don't seek something that is beyond your attainability with ease and confidence. So if it feels too hard, then you're going the wrong way about it. So I think, not seeking perfectionism. And the last one would be just really believing in yourself, because if you trust your intuition and trust your gut feeling, then you have that confidence and that resilience to keep going. No matter how many times you get beat down, you will always come back up. And the quicker you come back up every time, you know, you don't feel like you're beat down anymore.
I love that. Swim downstream, not upstream. You know which way you're swimming. Yeah, you know when that resistance comes. Oh, thank you so much, Kate. So how can people find BeFit Food? And I really want to talk about these amazing challenges that you offer.
Okay, it's pretty easy. Go to befitfood.com.au, and we've got a 14-day challenge that we offer, and you can start anytime. And the reason why we do the 14 days is we believe from a mindset point of view, it's really important to stick at something for more than a week, because you've got to undo some of those bad habits in the first week. And then by the time you get to the second week, it's easy. You're changing those habits. It becomes second nature. And by the end of that second week, you no longer have those bad habits. And I guess you've got that perspective. You go, wow, gosh, those first few days were hard. Now I've come to the end of it. It just feels easy again. So 14 days is a really, achievable amount of time to be in a program, I think. And we offer the 28-day programs as well. But a lot of the time people aren't ready to commit to 28 days. So I think it just warms them up. And if they want to do 2 in a row, they can create their own program.
I agree. Like 2 weeks just to start. And then when you need to come back and refresh for spring, which is perfect for now. And, some of the poor eating or bad drinking habits through lockdown, that some of us might have fallen into. But lucky my eating habits are good. But yeah, no, look, we've all gone through stuff. It's been such a trying time. And I reckon even the second time to come back for a challenge, I would totally do a month. And so that's great. So I really highly recommend Kate's Food, and definitely try a challenge. And even Ben Like Bamboo are offering a special, use the coupon code Ben Like Bamboo 15 and you'll get $15 off as well. So thanks, Kate. Thank you for your time today. I've had so much fun chatting to you.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. And it's lovely to get to chat to you. It's, it feels nice to talk to a supportive community. So thank you.
I'm always here for you, and I'm so glad to have you in my life. And, thank you for everything that you do.
Thanks, Amanda.
All right. I'll speak to you soon.
Bye.